compulsive eater. I weigh and measure 3 meals a day from the gray sheet. Hey, everybody. I write them down. I call them in and commit them to my sponsor every morning, and I don't eat in between those meals no matter what. And abstinence is the most important thing in my life today. Thank you to Carla for asking me to qualify. She sent me a message. My birthday was last week, my belly button birthday, and then my 1 year was just a couple of days ago. And she sent me a text, and I read part of it, and it was about happy birthday and happy anniversary. And I was like, she is so sweet. And she said, will you qualify? And I was like, but yeah, I mean, I'm honored to do it. And my first default setting is always, can I legitimately, not do this thing that makes me nervous? But I'm so grateful to Gray Sheet. It's given me the life that I have today, a life where I'm just honestly just unburdened by my obsession with food. I mean, that is the biggest, greatest gift. I thought it was losing weight. I came here to lose weight. And I was here once before, but I'll talk about that. But yeah, I thought I was just here because of the weight, and I didn't even realize how painful my own thinking was and how much of a prisoner I felt like I was. Yeah. Anyway, I want to tell you in a kind of a general way what it was like, what happened, and what it's like today. Growing up, I was grew up in a really loving home. What I think was, we had our issues with some alcoholism, but as far as food went, I feel like I had a pretty healthy upbringing. We always ate dinners together. My mother worked full time. My father worked full time, but she'd come home and she'd make, all the things that you would think a healthy family would eat. She'd put it all on the table, and we would eat until we were full, and we would get up and leave the table. And it wasn't until really my teenage years that I started doing like the eating in front of the TV thing and the using food to soothe myself. But growing up, it just always seemed, it was just, food was something we enjoyed, but it wasn't something that I really hid in for comfort. There was this one strange thing that we always did. My father would never finish his food. He would say, well, I'm full, and he'd push his plate away, which none of us did that. We ate until it was all gone. And so we would eat off of his plate. That's just like, we would all laugh about it. This is so funny. We're going to finish Dad's plate. If it wasn't for us, he'd never finish his food, which he didn't. We did. And it sort of set me up for a life of feeling like I'm going to, finish everyone's food for them. And it would make me real upset when people wouldn't finish their food. So I don't know. It's always been there, I guess, but it wasn't really until I with the puberty that my body started to change, and I started to get really uncomfortable with myself, like all teens probably do. And I found a solace in food. I really did. I found a solace in all the things that we don't eat. And up until that point, I had kind of been able to eat what I want and was a skinny little kid, and really started packing it on, and just didn't understand what I was supposed to do. I didn't talk to my mom about it. I didn't really talk to anybody about it. I just sort of, suffered in silence, I guess. I just knew I was uncomfortable with my body. And I remember, I feel so bad for kids now with all the social media and seeing pictures of people with filters that are your friends and all this. It's got to be awful. And I'm grateful I didn't grow up with that, because the magazines were my thing. I would sit in the bathroom and look at magazines of all these skinny women and just cry. And I would stand in the mirror and try to hold my thighs back, what they would look like if I just could stop eating. And, I'm like 13. And so this just went on, and I found a lot of relief in food. I also found relief in other substances, and ended up in a treatment center for outside issues. And it was in, then I went to a halfway house, and it was in that particular place that my bulimia started. And it was just an extreme form of me trying to control an uncontrollable situation, I think, beyond my weight. It was where I was, and that I couldn't leave. And I don't know, I just kind of quit doing it after I left there. But it was a little taste of just sort of what that form of that eating disorder, that part of it looked like for me. And I did have great results. So I think it's just because I don't know why I didn't keep doing it, because it did work for me. I got really skinny. Anyway, I think I'm trying to remember when I started with the restricting. I'm not really sure what age I did that, but at some point it hit me that if I restricted either my amount or type of food, I would lose weight. And that was just sort of the story of my whole compulsive eating up until I got to GreySheeters. I would start a new diet and last maybe a week on it. Then I'd binge for 2 weeks and I'd start another diet. I would try to exercise. That would last for a little while, then I'd stop. I mean, follow through, but I always believed the next diet was going to do it. And it never really occurred to me that my thinking was broken around food, that my thinking was broken around numbing myself. It's really obvious with other substances when you're doing that, I think, or it can become really obvious. But with food, for me, it was really insidious. I was never hugely overweight. For most of my life, I was about 40 pounds overweight. At one point, I was 50 pounds overweight. So when I first came to GreySheet, I felt like I wasn't legitimate enough. I'd never had, surgeries. I had felt like I hadn't been big enough to be able to be here. And it's taken, this year has really shown me that I have earned my seat to be here. That I did suffer enough to be here, and that this is not about the size of my thighs. This is about what's going on inside of me. So anyway, so how I got here, I was in my other program, and I met a woman who, I don't even know how it came up, but compulsive eating came up. And she told me about GreySheet and that she was a very active member. And it's not like I looked at her. I mean, she does look beautiful and she is thin, but she has this glow. She has this thing. And I always thought it was our other fellowship, and maybe that's part of it, but she just has this freedom that I really wanted. So I kind of hemmed and hawed and read stuff about it and tried to figure it out on my own, online. I didn't want to have a sponsor. I didn't want to call anybody. I didn't want to do anything extreme. But eventually it became painful enough for me. Then my eating really changed. So my compulsive eating got worse. And it seemed like the more I tried to control it in the last 5 years, the way worse it got. So I was doing things like eating things I didn't even normally want, sweet things that we don't eat, in the middle of the night. So I started night eating. I would take stuff out of the trash that my child had thrown away and eat that. I was eating his food off his plate. I mean, it got really weird and really intense for me. Anyway, I finally called the GreySheet number and spoke to someone, and she talked to me for a long time, and she got me started on the program. I committed my food and I started. And I didn't do the things I do today, but I did some of them. Mostly I just called my food in every day, but I didn't really expand my network. And after about 9 months, maybe about 8 months, 9 months, I started doing some deceptive things. I would not be honest about what I was weighing, but I would never tell anyone. I was making food changes and never calling those in. I was just taking my will back. I was doing just these little things that seemed okay because I wasn't gaining weight and I had lost 30 pounds. I felt great. And I thought this was okay. And then eventually I was in a situation with no defense against the first bite. And it's not that I had no one to call. It's just that I hadn't been calling anyone. And I knew I was already not abstinent. I hadn't been abstinent. So I just went for it and I stayed out for about another year. And in that year, I lost every pound of weight. I gained it all back. 30 pounds in 1 year. It was pretty devastating to me. And it was very painful. And it was just crazy in my head. It was just crazier than ever. And I just kept saying, if I could just get back to GreySheet, if I could just get back to GreySheet. And I wanted to come back, but it's like I couldn't come back. I couldn't stop. I couldn't pick up the phone. I don't know. It was the weirdest, darkest, strangest time. I don't even have the words for it, but I just felt like I could not do it. And I just really started praying about it. And I think it's just God's grace that allowed me to one day pick up the phone and call that same woman who had sponsored me. And she welcomed me back, and she sent me a sheet for relapse prevention, just some suggestions that to me were a lot. But I actually called her and got that sheet and didn't call her the next day, and it took me like another month or something to call her again. But I had to be willing, and I had to be, I guess, beaten into submission by my own self, and I was. So anyway, I started calling my food into her, and I started, coming to meetings, video meetings, and making those phone calls and doing that outreach, making some relationships with other GreySheeters. In this year, we were talking about the no matter what's the other day on the phone, and some of the no matter what's, obviously pandemic. I mean, everyone's had that, but yeah, I've had my father passed away this year, and that was, I didn't even think about eating. He passed away in June, and this is his fingerprint. We just got this made. I just picked it up the other day from the funeral home, so it's really special to me. There's certain things that I used to say, if this happened, I know I would pick up a drink. And there were certain things that I thought, if this happens, I'm going to probably eat. I'm not going to be able to do this. And the death of either one of my parents or my child is one of those. And it's just so amazing to me that I didn't even think about it. I didn't even think about eating. I was able to move through it and be there with my mom and with my family. And, we just had the first Thanksgiving without him, and we had a really great time. I mean, we were all together, and I didn't think about eating at Thanksgiving. And, I didn't think about eating when I couldn't afford to send my son to school because school was closed and I had to pay all this extra money for childcare. I didn't think about eating when I had to ask someone to help me pay for it. I had to ask my brother for money, and that was really hard for me. So when I think about eating are these weird times, and it's not very often, but it's not really these big things. It's just these little things that I'm trying to take care of myself. So I do believe that my spiritual condition today was such that allowed me to come here and get abstinent. I don't know that I'm not saying someone can't come here and not believe in God or whatever and not get abstinent. Just for me, I had to be ready. And I think that that is what keeps me abstinent. The fellowship, all of you, my higher power. I mean, these are the things that are solid rocks for me. And weighing and measuring that food. I mean, I always know I kind of eat the same thing over and over again, which is fine with me. But I always know that everything's going to be okay because I'm going to write that food down at night while I'm laying in bed. I commit it in the morning, and I know exactly what's going to happen with my food, and I don't even have to think about it. And God, if you would have told me years ago, or even 2 years, 3 years ago, before I came to GreySheet, that simple thing, that very simple few acts would give me freedom from food, and obviously eating the foods we eat on the GreySheet, I would never have believed that, because to me, freedom is having lots of choices. And that's what I don't want to give up all my choices. And I don't feel like I've given up anything here. I mean, I've gained so much. And I mean, do I miss some of the things? I really don't. I don't miss the foods I used to binge on. And I certainly don't miss the behavior that goes around it. And I will say this, I don't know where I am with time. I didn't time myself.
30 seconds until 15 minutes.
30 seconds.
Until 15 minutes. Okay. So I got another 5.
Thank you. I appreciate it. My biggest challenge coming to GreySheet has been accepting that I have a disease of compulsive eating. That was my biggest challenge. I said it, I said the words, and I said I believed it when I came before, but I didn't really believe it. I never really believed it. I would even walk around the house saying it out loud, like, I don't really think this is a disease. I just kind of think I got a little problem. And so I had to go back out there and spend a year relapsing. I had to, it's not even about gaining all that weight back. I had to feel all that misery that I felt to accept it. I just did. I am so grateful today that I not only have accepted that I'm a compulsive eater, I've accepted the solution that works for me. And I'm so just blown away at how free I feel and that it, I don't know, I'm just feeling really grateful today for all of you. I feel like you're my family. I just love all of you, mostly ladies, some men, love the men too. And I just feel just overwhelming gratitude that I have a year and that I can call and you're going to pick up the phone, or I can come to a meeting and I'm going to see you. And I don't know, I can just relate. And I think I'm going to start rambling soon. So I'm just going to cut it off here. But thank you for allowing me to qualify.